What is going on, you guys? So today I want to hop into another quick video review. So this one is by a guy named Sterling Cooper, and the video title is How to Find a Wife. Let's go ahead and hop into it.
You want to find a trad wife? Well, I personally think that men should be screening women just as much, if not more, than the average woman screens the average man. Well, today I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Today, I'm going to go over my own personal criteria for vetting a woman for a serious relationship, aka a woman who I would consider seriously turning into a mother and making her a wife, making her the mother of my kids, starting a family with. So I'm basically going to give you a bunch of red flags to look out for, a bunch of green flags to look out for, so you can pick and choose whatever applies for you and your preferences, so you can help to narrow down your dating options and find a woman you can take more seriously, or you can actually take seriously for a long-term relationship or wifey mother material. And we're going to save body count for the very end because it's the spiciest one, and I think I have a very unique, interesting take on it that you'll be wanting to listen to. Now, these are in no particular order. They're just as they came to my head and came out of my mouth. So basically, here we go. Does she have a good relationship with her father? I consider that to be a giant green flag. That's something you want to look out for. Does she start folding your clothes and cleaning up after you without being prompted at all? Is that just something she does with zero instruction? Your clothes laying around, she'll fold them up, or she'll wash them, put them away, something like that. That is a huge, huge, huge green flag. That is a woman who has her feminine instincts or her feminine nature in line. She's more feminine than she is masculine, which is actually quite rare to find in the modern Western world. Does she have a million cats?
That was actually a really funny one. Like, I experienced that with a girl. Like, she was just like, she did all these things, didn't even really ask, like she just wanted to do them, right? Like I noticed that she was just doing my laundry, right? Like I didn't ask her to do it. I didn't necessarily want her to do it, but she was just doing it because it felt natural to her. And then also, like, she was asking, like, while I was in between work calls, she was like, oh, like, when do you have a few minutes so I can have coffee and breakfast ready for you? Things like that. But at the same time, too, what's funny is I've gotten the question about that as well, where a girl was like, oh, so you just want to be served? And no, it's not about that, right? Like, we don't want to be served. It's not like, because they say it in a weird way, right? It's like a servant or something. No, that's not what we want. We just want we want to do things out of kindness for our partner. And we also want the person that we're dating to want to do things out of kindness for us, just to make our lives easier for each other. That's the simple thing. Like, it's an act of, care, respect, love, all of those things. Let's keep going.
That's a huge red flag. Women who have lots of cats, or even just lots of pets in general, right? Like one, okay, that's fine. But like if she just keeps getting lots of animals and pets, well, that's a clear sign that she has the nurturing instinct in her, but it has been diverted onto pets and animals instead of onto kids and children. On her Instagram, does she have photos of her on a yacht? That's a huge red flag. That means she's probably been a hoe. Now, not every woman who's ever been on a yacht ever is a hoe. Right? There's a tremendous correlation with women who go on yachts and take photos of them and put them on their Instagram, and women who are whores. Those two things correlate very, very strongly. If she owns a dog, is the dog well trained? That is a giant green flag. If a woman can actually have a dog under control, as opposed to the dog being completely out of control, completely useless, not responsive, not disciplined, or anything like that. If a woman has a dog breed that is very, very hard to train and very hard to keep control, and she's got it under control, that's a giant green flag, because that's a woman with patience, that's a woman who's intelligent, that's a woman who doesn't give in to her emotions and spoil the animal with love and affection when it's misbehaving. That's a woman who can be tempered. That's a very, very good green flag. Does she want to live in a big city?
Yeah, basically, like, she's good at caring and disciplining the dog, or the pet in general, right? And I just want to comment on the yacht thing for a second, because I've heard that as well, and I've seen that, and usually it's not the best sign if you see them doing that. I mean, truth be told, there's a lot of guys, and like, there's a lot of guys who are very wealthy, who are yachting, doing this and that, and there's a lot of dark things behind yachts. So just be mindful of that if you run into a girl who is involved in that.
Or does she want to live in the rural countryside, away from all the nonsense? That one is up to you. That's your call. You have to decide where you want to live. Personally, for me, a giant green flag is a woman who wants to homeschool her kids, a woman who does not want to live in a big city, a woman who wants to live the rural country life on a farm with a bunch of animals and a bunch of kids. Those are all green flags if she aligns with that vision. Did she go to college? Huge red flag, because she's been she's been brainwashed basically for at least 4 years. If she has a college degree and she went to college, she spent 4 years getting indoctrinated with liberal ideology, feminist ideology, basically Marxist ideology for 4 years straight. If you want to take this woman seriously, you're going to have to undo all of this programming, which is a lot of work. It's better to actually find a woman who doesn't have that programming in the first place. Does she do cocaine? Huge red flag. She's probably sucked the dick for it. Does she smoke weed? Huge red flag. She's probably also sucked the dick for it. And on top of that, if she smokes weed regularly, habitually, then she's going to be lazy. She's going to be not like on point intellectually. She does cocaine all the time. It's again, it's an addictive habit. Probably parties a lot. Very, very negative lifestyle correlations to both of those drugs. Also, well, yeah, I might as well say, does she drink a lot? Also a huge red flag. Women who get boozy all the time, they tend to have slept around quite a lot. Does she have some kind of
Let's add lots of concerts, music festivals, EDM festivals, rap shows, any of that to this. Like, if that's something that's happening a lot, there's probably the drinking and drugs involved as well, and probably some promiscuity, especially like if you're in some kind of Disney fairy tale dating this girl and you think that she's being like very wholesome going to these things, just keep in mind the reality of these things.
Still with her ex. I don't know, they've got like a mortgage together or a lease together, or they share an animal together, or there's some kind of still entanglement there. There wasn't like a clean break between her and her ex. She still has to like contact him or be involved with him in some way, shape, or form. In my opinion, that's a massive red flag, because it makes moving on and having a life and a relationship with you, it's like this ball and chain that they're dragging behind as they're trying to come into the relationship with you. It's better to have like a clean separation from any exes. Was she raised religiously, or does she have religion in?
Also, just to add to that thing about like maybe some potential ideals that she may have, whether it's from society, college, like these things, because you might hear it's like a cliche, like cheesy phrase you've heard, like, oh, like I don't need no man kind of thing. Well, it's like, most people who are saying something like that are shouting it, right? Like, I don't need a man, blah, 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 right? And it's like, okay. I mean, that sounds like very hardened, right? Like very hard of you, like. And really, I think at their core, they're a lot softer, right? Like they want a man, right? They want to be able to let go, be able to let a strong, masculine, caring guy lead them, support each other, right? They want that. And so like when you run into like, I don't need no man, like I'm a boss chick, I'm a boss babe, I'm a CEO, this and that, like on one hand, like it's cool, right? Like having a really like driven and ambitious girl. On the other hand, if she's so like, oh, I don't need a man, blah, blah, what do you do? What do you do for me? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, I mean, that's just like a headache to deal with. And we all, especially guys, like on both ends, realistically, we just want peace. I mean, so does that really hard sounding girl too. Like, she wants peace as well. She just doesn't know it. That's probably the funniest or ironic part about it. And if someone can show her the light, maybe, or if she can find it and tap into that softer feminine energy and be able to let go and have an amazing relationship with a guy, she's gonna realize like she didn't really care about all that stuff, especially as she gets older, right? Like she'll probably get to the point where she's like yeah, I really do want a kid, like I really do want an awesome relationship. It's not like all this like work hard, CEO, this and that. I mean, usually that's not really like what they want. It's usually something that was implanted in them by someone else, like, oh yeah, like society or someone else told them like, oh no, that's what you want to do. So just keep in mind some of this stuff while you're dating.
Life. I would call this a green flag. However, the caveat here is that she can't have any resentment towards that religion. A lot of girls that I know of who were raised very strictly religious, they became resentful towards it, particularly because of the way Christian religious practices in particular, for some reason, like frame sex, and they rebelled against it as teenagers by sleeping around a bunch. And maybe they came to God later on in life, like after when in their late 20s or 30s or whatever, and they were magically able to find a guy at the church. But the problem is, he's not very aware of her past, shall we say, and the ramifications that come along with that promiscuous past. But again, I would say if she's religious in general, it's a green flag. However, the caveat is, was she resentful in some way during her upbringing around religion? But being raised religiously is a very good thing, because there's typically going to be a lot of positive traits that are associated with that, and feminine ones are associated with that. Depends upon the church, obviously, or depends upon the religion as well, but all these little exceptions and caveats aside, if she's religious, it's a green flag. Is she resistant to media brainwashing and propaganda? Does she not buy the bullshit, basically? That is a giant green flag. That is a woman who's not easily programmed by mainstream society, so she's probably going to be less of a feminist. She's probably going to be more traditional. Does she want to be a mother and have a family? Huge green flag. That's a woman you can take seriously. Does she take care of her health and her fitness? That's a huge green flag. That's a woman you can take seriously. Does she know how to cook? That is a fantastic green flag. She's going to make a wonderful wife, wonderful mother, and a very healthy one too. If she knows how to cook well, that means that she can cook healthy foods for both you and your children. Health, man, like I cannot stress this enough. It's something that we've been like screwed over with through the standard Western diet, through the quality of our food, through artificial flavorings, preservatives, a whole bunch of things I can talk about. But in general, for me personally, it's a massive priority that I ensure that my children grow up healthy. Is she rude to the wait staff if you go out to a restaurant? That's a giant red flag. I don't think I even need to explain that one. Being rude to wait staff is just unacceptable. Is she a single mother? That's a red flag. Sorry guys. I don't know why any man would date a woman or take a woman seriously who already has a kid with somebody else. Like, it's not my job to look after another man's ejaculate. The caveat is you don't also have kids. I actually think that's the one situation that works, is single mothers should be pairing up with single fathers, in my opinion, because that actually can work. A dude with no kids shouldn't be checking up with a woman who has kids already if he actually gives a shit about having a family, because he doesn't care about his own genetic legacy, obviously, because he's raising another man's kids. Is she well traveled, let's say? I consider that a red flag. Typically, women are flown around places by dudes, and each time she's flown to a different place by a dude, there's probably some sex involved, right? There's a few caveats to that, like her father was rich and took her around places. Okay, yeah, that's not really a problem. That's acceptable. I personally want to be the guy who shows a woman the world. I want to show her all these new fun experiences. And let's just say, even if she was well traveled and she didn't sleep around or anything, but now there's nothing for me to show her. Like, it takes the fun out of it. I want to be able to show her the world. Does she have a high body count? I would say that's a red flag. But here's the caveat. Here's my unique opinion on this. How on earth are you even going to tell? A woman is never going to be honest with you about this in the first place. So there's certain things that you are going to have to kind of look out for, which are indicators of a woman who has had a high body count. And age isn't actually an indicator of this either, by the way, because you can have a girl who's 30 years old who just had 3 back-to-back long-term relationships, and that's the only sex she's ever had. She's had 3 partners, but she's 30 years old. I've met 19-year-old girls in Miami with a body count of 50. I kid you not. Age isn't really indicative of body count. I mean, in general, the older they are, they're more likely to have more partners, but it's just not as clear-cut as you'd think it would be. Now, here's my controversial opinion on this. Yes, a high body count typically is a bad sign, right? The reason it's a bad sign is because she's going to be less compliant to you. She's going to be less pair-bonded to you. She's going to love you less because she's just, subconsciously, not even consciously, subconsciously, in subtle ways, she is going to be comparing you to, not all the dudes she had sex with, but the ones that she considers higher value, shall we say, than you. The ones that were more attractive than you, that she's had in her past, she's going to be comparing you subconsciously to these guys. So the more things there are to compare to, the less likely you are going to be her best option in her mind. Whether she's consciously thinking this or unconsciously, it doesn't actually matter. It's still there in her brain. You're never going to know what her number is. She's never going to tell you. Guys, for example, will consider a girl sucking a dick as a body. Women won't consider that, and they'll just consider only penetrative sex, for example. So she's never going to be honest with the number. The number doesn't matter. What matters is how compliant she is to you. Does she see you as the love of her life? Does she see you as the best man she has ever actually been with? And you can tell this through how compliant she is to your instructions. Does she follow your lead, basically? Or is she very confrontational and disagreeable with you? If she's very confrontational and disagreeable with you, well, then that's a massive, massive red flag. There's 2 things you'll notice about this list I just gave you. One is that tits and ass did not appear on it anywhere. That should not be a criteria, in my opinion, for deciding whether to have a serious long-term relationship with a woman and have kids with a woman. The second thing you'll notice is I probably listed a lot more red flags than green flags. By the way, this is how women vet men as well. Women are constantly looking to disqualify a guy, basically. And I think men could benefit from taking a somewhat similar approach. Typically, men are looking for any reason to qualify a woman to be his partner. I think it's a smarter idea to take a different approach and look for reasons to disqualify that woman. Look for the red flags to disqualify her as a potential long-term partner, because then you're going to be avoiding a whole world of pain. It's more important that what a woman isn't than what she is, because women have to preserve their value, whereas men have to create their value. So with the red flag thing, you're looking out for ways in which she has compromised her value and basically hasn't preserved her femininity.
Awesome, guys. So obviously an interesting guy. He's got some good points in there. Actually, one thing worth sharing is that he mentioned this term pair bonding. So basically, the idea there is that they're talking about chemical bonding, right? So when you are with someone, especially when you're with someone and some touch is involved or intimacy, you bond with them a bit more because of that, right? It releases chemicals in your brain and your body. And so the idea there is that the more people that the girl has been with, the more difficult it is for her to bond with the partner that actually matters in the future, right? And truthfully, I think there's a lot of ego around this when guys bring it up on the internet. So, for example, guys will be very ultra, their ego's just super in the way, right? They'll say oh, that only affects women and it doesn't affect guys, which I think is total BS, right? I think it does affect guys as well, right? Like if you're just being too much of a playboy, getting around a little too much, that sort of thing, and you're just doing it for the ego boost, right? I think you can drive yourself in that direction a little bit. It'll be harder for you to commit to the partner that actually matters later. Now, I do think that it might be more difficult for guys to get to that point, and I think it's easier for women to get to that point where like they make it hard to bond with a future partner. And the reason for that is because guys are typically a little bit less emotional, right, than women are. And so like just due to our like genetic makeup, the guys will not experience that quite as much, but they will still experience it. Don't get that wrong, right? Because guys, funny enough, guys feel very deeply when they get into a relationship, and you might not know it because they maybe don't show it that much, but like you've probably seen this before. Like oftentimes when a guy is going through a heartbreak, right, it's like it seems like 10 times worse than it is when you see it like through a girl, because like you can see basically what Sterling was talking about earlier is like if a girl is like comparing you or really quick to get to a next guy, right? Like she might have had a guy sort of in the wings or in orbit, like she could kind of like go to right after your relationship was over. Like she knew she had someone in mind after it worked out, which is like a terrible thing in the first place, right? It's like she had an exit strategy, right? Instead of like counting on your relationship working or trying to work on it. And a lot of people really feed into the short-term dating culture, which all I can really say about that like is figure out what you want, because if you at your core, because a lot of people have their ego in the way, right? They'll say, no man, like it's easy for me to replace somebody, it's easy to replace that guy or girl, like it is what it is, and they'll get into this habit of feeding. Let's say there's two wolves, right? You're feeding the short-term wolf, which means that you can do that. Maybe you're a little bit better at short-term relationships. That doesn't mean that you're good at long-term relationships or finding a good partner, because you haven't been feeding that wolf at all, or you haven't been feeding that skill set, right? Because it's a total different animal when it comes to vetting, like this guy's talking about, for a great relationship and maintaining your masculine frame, boundaries, and a healthy long-term relationship with a great woman and creating a family. So I hope this video helps. His name is Sterling Cooper. He's obviously like a very, very interesting guy, very helpful. I hope this video helped you guys and just bring some things to light in terms of vetting for future partners, dating, things like that. Maybe you'll have seen some of these things shown up, or you'll see that they have shown up in your life so far. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. You got this, bro.